Today, I want to ask all of you a question. Have you ever wanted to save a teenage girl from a mysterious entity that took over her childhood friend? Well, you're in luck. Imagine if you were just minding your own business one day, when suddenly, WD Gaster appears right in front of you, asking you to stop the soul/player from going through with the weird route, wanting you to keep Noelle safe. And if you're wondering why Gaster wants you to do this, it's because his daughter really likes Noelle, and he doesn't want to see her unhappy. And you know what? Because I'm such a generous hypothetical giver, if you want to bring a couple of friends along with you, go right ahead. I'm sure your friends would thank you for bringing them along on this potentially suicidal mission. And with that, you're off. Being transported to the Deltarune universe as a Darkner of whatever object you want to be. Me personally, I'm going with a crumpled red Hawaiian shirt. Now, before we start, I'm aware that it's incredibly easy to prevent the weird route from happening as Chris. The game gives you every chance to back out over and over again. And you just know that whatever Toby has in store is gonna be way worse than Chapter 4. But anyways, because of how easy it is to abort the weird route, I'm gonna make a couple changes to the hypothetical. Number 1, I'll be removing the condition that if a single Darkner isn't frozen by Noelle, then the weird route will automatically be aborted, because that is way too easy. And 2, there won't be any requirements for Spamton and Addison to sell the rings to Chris and Noelle. If they reach the 2 salespeople, they get the rings. But despite this, they're still gonna go after any Darkner they see in order to get stronger. And before we finally start, I would love to hear how you guys would try and save Noelle in the comments below. Anyways, with those conditions out of the way, let's go stop the weird route. It's time to commence Operation Deer Defense. You immediately spawn in the Dark World the second Noelle and Birdley appear. As for where you manifest into existence, I feel like the most optimal place to do so is Cyber City, because if you choose to appear in the cyber field, there's not much you can really do before Queen snatches up Noelle. You could choose to spawn at the start and try to get Noelle away from the area as fast as possible, but I don't think you'll be able to keep Queen away for long, due to all of her technology and buff birdmen. And as much as I want to keep Noelle safe, trying to protect her at the start is a one-way ticket to a robot face. Trying to convince Queen that you're there to be Noelle's bodyguard might work, since she knows how dangerous the city is. But if you bring it up, there's a chance she'll just assign a swashling to guard her. The last thing you can do in the cyber field is to rush over to Noelle while she's calling out for help, and do your best to establish a connection with her in a short amount of time. Introduce yourself, reassure her that you'll help her, and when she gets captured, put on a big show by demanding the Queen to let her go. And if you're a good enough talker, maybe, just maybe, Noelle will trust you enough to escort her through the cyber world after the whole coaster fiasco, away from the player-controlled Chris. Don't worry, Noelle, if your crush doesn't want to ride on the Ferris wheel with you, then I, a random Darkner you just met, will. Just rummage through Asgore's closet and you'll find me. And once Chris reunites with Susie and Ralsei, then you can let her go, as by then, she won't be alone with them. While this does sound like a doable plan, if Chris manages to catch up to you, there's no way you'll be able to take them in a one-on-one fight. And if they do run into you and Noelle, it's very likely she'll go with them, since the two have known each other for a long time. So while it is a sound plan, there's just too many things that could go wrong. So choosing to appear in the Cyber City is probably the best way to go. But it's clear, my dear viewers, that in order to protect our dear girl, we're gonna have to get crazier. Continuing with Operation Reindeer Retainment, if trying to convince Noelle to be her bodyguard won't work, then maybe we just have to take out Chris. I know they're not at fault for what's going on, but they'll just have to be a necessary casualty to keep Noelle safe. Choosing to appear in the Cyber City once again proves to be a solid choice, as spawning here gives you some ample prep time. Gather as many Darkners as you can, sabotage the puzzles, prepare some ambushes, and maybe do a bit of guerrilla warfare. Just try your absolute hardest to beat the soul out of Chris. Now, while trying some awesome badass jumping against Chris to protect Noelle does sound pretty fun, I doubt it'd be effective. For one, trying to take down Chris head on will just cause Noelle to start freezing everyone. And it's kinda hard to protect her when she's actively trying to fight us. Also, while I don't think Chris knows that they respawn, the soul can just keep coming back. So even if you do manage to take down Chris, it won't matter. Another thing you could try to do is simply kidnap Noelle. But unfortunately, that's way too risky. Trying to carry Noelle off while running away from Chris could be tricky, since carrying a deer girl while simultaneously trying to escape someone who can sprint would slow us down a lot. And while you might be able to pull it off if you recruited enough people to carry her away and hold Chris off, the soul can just persist, resetting the encounter and predicting our attacks. So while we could pull off some Home Alone shenanigans by hitting Chris and the soul with a bunch of different elaborate traps, or engaging them in a massive battle, the fact that the soul can just reset means that they can adapt to all of our plans eventually. So it's clear that in order to stop the weird route, we're gonna need to target someone else. Alright, so friendship and fighting probably wouldn't work. So what do we do? Well, my dear viewers, here's a plan that I came up with that's sure to keep Noelle safe. Unless it doesn't. Commencing Operation Servine Security. From watching a Chapter 2 speedrun, I've deduced that a player can reach the Cyber City from the Cyber Field in about 10 minutes. So we gotta do this fast. The first thing we're gonna do is spawn in the Cyber City. And with your extensive knowledge on Deltarune, you're going to complete every single puzzle in the city before Chris and Noelle show up. And if you already have friends with you, it'll be easier. But for us solo folk, we're gonna have to ask someone in the city to help us with them. And if they're suspicious, we just say it's for a good cause. Which is true. And with something like the stoplight puzzle, where the problem is a constant flow of traffic, we need to throw something down to block the roads. While a small white dog usually does the trick, putting some traffic cones down should work for a while. With the puzzles already completed, that takes away a lot of the moments where Noelle feels like they should just listen to Chris. Next, we're gonna run all the way to the trash area and recruit someone to our team. Someone so incredibly vital to this operation that without them, my entire plan is shot. We need Newbert. I feel like telling Newbert that we need his help to save someone's life would definitely get him on board. And I guess we can take Trashy too. I'm sure he'd like to be involved. But with Newbert's kindness and influence, I'm sure we'd be able to convince many denizens of the Cyber City to either go into hiding to avoid being frozen, or join us in our quest to save an angel. While having some extra hands on deck is pretty good, people that you should grab are some Swatchlings and Sweet Captain Cakes. We need the robotic trio for their sick ride, but since they have to be spared by the fun gang, whether or not they'd actually help us out is still up in the air. But the Swatchlings are gonna be very important for the next part of this operation. We need to dispose of two key people. Two salespeople. First, we should go after the Pink Addison, since they're a lot closer and I feel like taking care of them would be easier. We need to get that freeze ring. With a bunch of people combining their dark dollars together, you should be able to buy it. And if not, you'll unfortunately just have to rob them. Give us the ring. It's a matter of life and death. So all you need to do is confiscate the Addison's freeze ring along with any other duplicates they might have. I don't think Addisons are very strong, so you should be able to do this, especially with a large enough group. And if the other Addisons are still around in this hypothetical, have some of your members go around and interrogate them to see if they also have a freeze ring, just in case. Without the freeze ring, there's yet another moment of the soul manipulating Noelle that's gone, along with keeping a powerful item out of their hands. And finally, we have to deal with good ol' Spamton G Spamton. Now, Spamton has 2 token dumpsters he calls home, but for this scenario, I'd assume he'll be at the Weird Route one. We need to get the Thorn Ring out of his grubby little homeless hands, so what we're gonna do is set a little trap. First, we'll need a string, a stick, and a box. We'll set that up right near the dumpster. Next, we'll need Newbert and a swatch lane. We'll start by talking about pouring rain on a cloudy day, in order to turn the swatch lane blue. Next, we'll take off its now blue suit and wrap Newbert up in it. Do you see where I'm going with this? Then we'll set the covered up Newbert underneath the box, and set up a little Pippus box trap. And when Spamton sees it, he'll most likely approach it. And when he gets close enough to touch it, the rest of us will appear from behind and beat him with sticks. Then we'll tie him up, shake the loot out of him like a cartoon bully, and take the Thorn Ring. The Pippus trap was obviously not gonna work. It was just so clearly a trap. But it was just weird enough to distract Spamton so that we could beat him with sticks. Now, is this a foolproof plan? God, no. But I'd like to know how you guys would get your hands on the Thorn Ring in the comments below. But now, with the Freeze Ring and the Thorn Ring in the possession of Team Holiday Helpers, the Soul's manipulation of Noelle should be extremely limited, which means that Birdly should be safe. And just in case, you and your team can hide, and if you see Noelle start floating in the air with her eyes glazed over, you grab that blue bird and run. But there you have it. The Soul won't be able to reset and predict the plan, since everything we do will be before they arrive in Cyber City. Noelle will be relatively safe, Birdly will be alive, and Chris would hopefully be thankful. And that, my dear Custopians, is how I'd stop the Weird Route. But, just for fun, if everything else fails, how could we prevent the Weird Route in Chapter 4? Well, let's go over one last scenario. Operation Thorn Ring Thwarters, Holiday House Edition. This time around, instead of being a Darkner, you'll be a Lightner that's transported to Hometown. You can pick if you want to be a human or a monster. It's whatever you want to be. But what you're gonna do is break into the Holiday's house, whether it be by climbing the fence or sneaking in when Noelle opens the gate for Susie and Chris. But before you do that, you need to pick up some screws, a screwdriver, and some tape. Once inside though, you need to hide in the small room with the vent and all the presents. Once Chris inevitably goes in to toss the soul in a box, that's when you make your move. You can quickly leap out, slam a present lid down on the box, and wrap it all up with tape. You can also quickly patch the vent so that the soul has no way of escaping until Chris is done talking to Noelle. But if you check in later on and see that the soul miraculously escaped, quickly knock something over so that it lures Noelle and Chris out of the room. That way, they can get some distance from the soul long enough to meet back up with Susie. But if all else fails, the last thing you can do is hide in Noelle's room. And when the soul appears from the dialogue box to possess Chris, you leap out. Get down, Madam President! You can then tackle the soul, turn to Chris and Noelle, and yell, "Run!" giving them one last chance to escape. Now, could you beat the soul in single combat? I certainly hope so. But even if somehow this floating entity with no arms and legs manages to overpower you, at least you gave the 2 childhood friends a chance to escape. While a lot of terrible things have already happened in the Weird Route, at least you can do something. So that, everyone, is how I would try and prevent the Weird Route. And from my general knowledge, I'd like to think that Operation Antler Association would be a success. But what do you guys think? How would you all try and prevent the Weird Route if you were in the Deltarune universe? And if I got something wrong, let me know, because I usually get some stuff wrong. Anyways, thank you all for watching. My name's Custopia, and is anyone else feeling kinda cold?